Back at these hills again. Had my re-splurge day. Someone asked me a few weeks ago about staying lean. Not as lean as I was a few months ago, but still sub 10% body fat. What I typically do is, like 2 days down, 1 day up, carb cycle kind of thing, where low carbs for 2 days, basically just protein to meet the muscle requirements. And then today on the cycle up day, get a little water retention, whatever, but it doesn't matter because I had a 6-pack of giant donuts with 3 protein shakes for breakfast. So I'm pushing about 2,500 plus calories there just for breakfast. So on the resurge day, typically to double, like 5,000 calories probably, sometimes up to 7,500 calories, depending on how hard I would train, for the next few days, whatever. So what it looks like is it's like a baseline average. What I found is if you cycle like up and down, the body keeps guessing and it doesn't get stagnant. And you also don't constantly give yourself insulin surges. Insulin's the fat storing hormone. So, if your body's not optimized, like I don't take GLP-1s, I don't take retatrutide or tirzepatide or any of that stuff. I've been fascinated by, how it's, all of a sudden the big thing. And I've been watching for people, I know people that take it and they've lost tremendous amounts of weight. But I don't know. I have my aversions to things that haven't been around for a while. Because I was like, oh wait, I'm waiting for the blowback, like all of the lawsuits to come flying out because people are getting hurt or whatever. I don't want to deal with that. But the idea here is, let's say you need 2,500 calories to maintain your body weight, like that's your baseline. Well, if you take it over the course of a week and not a day, it looks a little different. So if you take 2,500 and you're like, okay, 2,500, 5,000, 7,500, you go all the way out to a week, you have a certain amount of calories, right? Well, figure out what your total intake is over 3 days. So what I do is it's like every 3-day cycle, I'll need about 7,500 calories, give or take, right? Just to kind of maintain my current stature. So what I do is I do a slight deficit. So let's say I'm going to take in, 7,000 roughly, just roughly. Or maybe even go 6,500 as a more aggressive way of doing it, but you don't want to go too aggressive. Because if you starve yourself, your body's going to slow down because you're creating a resistance that's unnatural, and evolution's been around a lot longer than your human will and vanity, so it's going to say, we're not going to die for the cause. We're going to ramp up that hunger signal and we're going to make you eat. So what I would do is, let's say today we do 5,000. Well, I've got 2,500 left in the tank for the next 3 days. But the good news is, by taking in 5,000 today, I'm not hungry. Not hungry for at least another 24 plus hours. And I love to train fasted. So my eating window stopped several hours ago. And I'm going to sweat terribly because I have all these calories in me. It's horrible. But once this is done, tomorrow, I've got 1,250 calories left each day, tomorrow and the next day. And that's to create my baseline. So I'll just do 1,000 tomorrow. and I'll do 1,000 the next day. And that creates a 500 deficit. Now that's if I want a deficit. And so I did that. I did that a couple years ago when I wanted to drop like 30 pounds because I'd gotten a little slack. And so I just did this same cycling thing, and I just got shredded. Like my abs got dialed in. I could see the veins in my six pack, and it took a while. I mean, it took, like a good 3 to 6 months before it was totally dialed in. But that's what I did, as I just said. What works for me, what works for my lifestyle, my training schedule, and the idea was to look at two certain things that, and again, these are human beliefs, and I'm dealing in the realm of human beliefs just like you would if you're understanding that they affect you, as long as you're, just going through life and using them. For example, I don't just sit in my chair and imagine myself working out. I literally go do it. Is it required? I think you can pray your muscles in. I think you can. But I like doing it. And I also like eating. And I believe in eating. So when I eat, I like to eat big. Really big. So 5,000 calories today. And there are any calories I want as long as my protein needs get met. And then I also get some sort of adequate nutrition in later that's not just donuts. Right? The donuts are like a reward for putting in the work the last couple days. And they don't affect me because the next couple days, 1,000 calories. Now that's really low, right? And if you were on 1,000 calorie diet and you just stayed on 1,000 calorie diet, A, your metabolism would go and it would be trashed. B, you'd start to have health problems probably because you're not taking in adequate amounts and your body would fight back. And it's not sustainable. But what I found for me is that this was sustainable. It works. At least for now. I don't know if it'll work forever. But what I do is I use things as long as they serve me. And what happened was I prayed about this when I wanted to lose the weight. I prayed to my spirit within, God, and God told me to do this. God basically said, you love to eat, so just eat, and just eat big. It's like a modified version of like a snake diet, right? A snake gets its kill, and then it, might not eat again for a while, but it eats the whole thing. And humans used to be that way too. Hunting and gathering. You kill something, thousands of years ago. Just imagine. You didn't have a convenience store. You didn't have chips in the chips in the cupboard, and little pre-made little dips in the fridge. All these things to constantly just suckle on to basically soothe yourself. And so I found that this is also a really good way in my spiritual journey, because on the low days, when I'm not reaching for all those comfort foods, I have to face whatever I was stuffing down by snacking all the time. And I love doing that because that's my opportunity to heal. And healing isn't suppressing. And so what likely happens, and that's why maybe obesity, what they call obesity, is actually a disease, but maybe not in the way that it looks. I don't believe in an incurable metabolic disease or anything like that, because I believe that spirit forms us according to our knowledge, and, it reforms us. If you believe you're sick, you probably will be. If you believe God wants to heal you and you understand the nature of God and you become transformed in your thinking, I believe that transforming in your thinking will change your body, including the picture you hold of your body on your conscious awareness and others. All right? And so when you change all that, you're doing the work. And so on the low days, and even the high days, like today, when I stuffed down all those donuts and I drank those protein shakes, some people would say an awful thing about themselves, and they would imagine themselves, getting overweight and all these other things. I do the opposite. So what I do is I use my divine qualities of my spoken word and my imagination. And first I imagine myself lean, ripped, six-pack. I deny the thought that food has power over me in that way. I'm not a glutton. I don't do it every day. But I'm also not going to let it determine and govern me. So when I do over-exaggerate, I quickly go to my thought and I see myself shredded. And then I say, this is making me leaner. It's speeding up my metabolism. My metabolism is prime now. It's on fire. See that? And I really believe that your imagination and your spoken word are power. And if you misuse them, that's what I think the disease is that's underlying what they call the physical disease of obesity. Is the actual metaphysical disease is that, first of all, we look to the world and we think that there are people that are fat or skinny or too skinny. We think that we see all of these different versions and we make preferences. We're like, well, I don't want to look like that. And we point out somebody who's not looking so good. But the fact that we saw that in them means that it's in us. Okay? So to take the images of out there and to bring them into your imagination, if it's not good, it's blasphemy. It's taking the name or the nature of the Lord, and the Lord, in small case, is your unconscious mind. So if you take that nature of the Lord, your unconscious mind, and you degrade it into something hideous, and you see some distorted image, and then you fear it, you've just created it in your experience. And that's what begins the process. And it can begin unconsciously because it's like a yawn going around the room. So all of a sudden we can be like, I don't know what's happening. I can't keep my body in shape and I'm trying to diet and starve myself and do all these things. Well, in reality, we want to look at, first of all, what is the emotion? Because emotion's the master and thought is the servant. So what emotion is underlying that phenomenon? So what I did when I was, 30 pounds heavier was I sat and I just sat in the motion. And I didn't push it down anymore. I didn't go stuff it with food for just that morning when I wanted to confront it and face it. Be still and know that I'm God. That's the first step. Be still. So I got still. And now here's where the magic sauce comes in. So healing is 1/3 truth and 2/3 love. So if you don't have love for whoever you're trying to heal, which is you're healing something about them in thought, you're not healing actually them. But if you don't have sufficient love, the letter won't heal. It's like an artist, if they're playing an instrument. If they just play the notes with no feel and no emotion, it sounds terrible. But if they play with feeling, they can make one single note like give you goosebumps. So emotion, feeling, that's the master, okay? So what you want to do is you want to identify who's the master of this house. So if you want your body to dial in, just kick it back, all right? Just stop what you're doing and do an audit and say, who's the master of this house? And sit. Just get quiet, close out the senses, shut your eyes, stop thinking of what you need to do. Like, I need this diet, I need to do this. And just stop that for just a moment. That's just cope. That's just cope disguised as reasonableness. It's just, don't do it yet. Just say, who's the master of this house? What do I feel about this situation? So when I look back and I think of what I felt ashamed of myself. I felt sad. I was grieving. I felt inadequate and unworthy. Like I don't deserve to be my best version of myself. And most importantly, it's not the thoughts, it was I felt. Flash news report. When you surround yourself with people, their emotional states can rub off on you. Okay? So don't assume and don't ever admit that it came from you. It's not you. It's being imposed upon you. The emotion is trying to play you. It's like it's a phantom looking to host itself in you. So don't judge it, don't label it. Just observe it with pure awareness. Who's the master of this house? And as I observed it, I thought, oh my gosh, this is unworthiness, it's shame, it's grief. No, don't try to change it. Don't try to do that. Don't try to change it yourself. The remedy of remedies, remember it's 1/3 letter and 2/3 love. You need to bring love into the equation. Love, if you meet the patient with sufficient love, the healing will be instantaneous on the first attempt. Let me repeat that for you. If you meet the patient with sufficient love, the healing will be demonstrated in the first attempt. It's love and truth that heal combined. The truth is knowing the truth that makes you free, and love must be present. So, what I did in that moment is I thought about, I need to take care of me. I need to love myself enough to make a decision here that I'm going to let God show me the way out of this. I need to love myself just enough. It doesn't mean to be vain and in love with yourself, like I'm the best in the world. That's arrogance. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love keeps no record of wrongs. Remember that. So I'm not condemning myself for what I did. I let it slide. I got out of shape. I feel so bad about no. No, that's not me. Listen, and I said it to myself in that moment. I said, listen, my name was Matthew back then. And I said, Matthew, I'm going to take care of you and I'm going to guide you through this. Like I'm parenting myself, like that inner child that was so scared and so grief-stricken that I was just pacifying myself with food. Sugar, primarily carbs, food that makes you feel better for a minute, but then it degrades and degrades your whole being. And over time, the picture of it, because of lack of watchfulness, I wasn't watching my thoughts and doing the work, the picture of that was obesity, right? For me, 30 pounds was obesity, right? Clinical obesity was 30 extra pounds. It doesn't matter if it's 30 or 300. It's the same process. So I stopped. I said, all right, I love you. I'm going to help you. And I prayed and I turned to God. And this is where truth comes in. Okay? So once we have love, then we can listen for the truth. And when they combine, healing is instant. And healing is just a transference of one thought for another, which shifts perception, which actually shifts the parallel universe you're in. That's a mind blower, but it's a fact. All right? Now, all the people will be like, well, how can you prove it's a fact? I mean, who do you think you are, some kind of quantum physicist? Well, the fact is the proof's in the pudding. Just do it. A shift of thought brings a transformation in consciousness, and anytime consciousness transforms itself, it forms itself anew, and the outpicturing of our entire world is just consciousness expressed. Okay? Including your body. So, love first. Love. And if you're doing work about other people and you want to help them heal, if you don't have enough love for them as the child of God, then it doesn't matter what you say. You're not helping at all. In fact, you're probably just going to cause it to come more embedded because they know, because they're picking up, because there is no them. It's your thoughts about them. All right? So now, you turn within to the voice of the Spirit, and then truth comes. And so my truth in that moment, and this is probably not your truth, my truth came to me. And God said to me, you like to eat, so do it. Enjoy it. Thoroughly enjoy it. Enjoy it. But don't use it as a crutch to hide from this emotional pain. Let me deal with the pain. And then, obviously, I was freed in that moment. Like something changed in me because I saw the truth and there was love there. So my consciousness shifted. And as soon as it shifted, I knew the plan was sound. And from that day forward, the weight just melted right off when nothing else worked for years prior to that. And I'll tell you why it didn't work. It didn't work because I kept trying to do the thing before I changed consciousness. You know, I would get, okay, we're going to do OMAD now. Oh, okay. No, we're going to do the, the steak-only diet. No, okay. Now we're going to do intermittent fasting. And I would try to do the thing. Well, first of all, did I even love myself? No. I was coming at it from, screw you, man. You're not enough. And I was like kicking myself. Like, let me beat myself up every day. Well, beating yourself up is not love. So there's a way to push yourself with love. But I wasn't doing that. I was literally hating myself. I hate the way I look. I hate the way I feel. I hate the way I think about myself. Hate. All right? That's what I think. I can't prove it, but that's what I think is the true epidemic of, obesity, right? It's because I hate who I am. I hate the way I look. I reject myself. I see it in other people. It's gross. Well, flash news, if you see it in other people, it's in you because there are no other people. We're projecting it out. So what I do, fast forward, is at first glance, I may see, your stereotypical extreme dad bod out there, right? Hey, and some people think that's sexy, so I'm not judging it. Okay? But in my old line of thinking, if I saw that, I would reject it and I would be opposing it and defiant against it. And therefore, because that's fear, I was actually bringing it into my own experience. And that's what karma is. Karma is the balancing of the scales. So because I judged somebody else, not knowing their story, but that's a judgment, the judgment came upon me. How do I know what they're going through? Hey, they might even like that. That might be attractive. They're happy. At least they're happy. I wasn't happy. Okay, so now what I do is I fractal it out everywhere. If I see something that is, not what I would want to manifest, I instantly just go back to the screen on my thought of what I do want to manifest. Instantly. The same way I did this morning when I ate all those donuts. I just changed the picture on the screen. Do you know that that's all it takes, really, to get the process started? Okay, here's how simple it is. If I tell you to take the number 3 and hold the number 3 right now, hold it in your thought. Okay, now switch it to 5. You just did it. Wow, that was hard. Okay, that's how hard it is to switch the picture image in your mind. That's it. So that's all I do. Is if I see the dad bod, I'm like, nope, blink, bam. I see the 6-pack. I switch to oh, there's Mike O'Hearn's abs. Age 57, look at him. I'm freaking shredded. And I'm like, there it is. And I see Mike O'Hearn's abs. And I'm like, those are abs, man. And I'm looking right through the illusion of the physical person standing in front of me. And I'm seeing somebody that's totally diced. In other words, what I'm praying for others, I'm praying for myself. Now, it doesn't mean they need to do that to conform to a standard I'm making for them. It just means that I'm holding it lock stock in me of what I am interested in. And you do that with your money and all that stuff too, right? You never saw a homeless person or a broke person. Everybody is the reflection of God knowing infinite resources and abundance, because it only takes one idea to become very, very wealthy. And what's an idea? Nothing more than like switching the number 3 to number 5 in your thought. You see, when you realize how effortless this really is, then you start to wonder, why don't more people do it? Well, the fact is they're trying to do it, but here's the problem. If there is a problem, because God is love and all power belongs to God, if love isn't in the equation, there's no power there. So what's going on is the world is deficient in love. And so I heard this great talk by a man named Mark Swinney. He's actually a Christian Science practitioner, and it was so cool what he said. And I want to share it with you because it really changed my perception. And I'll tell you what he said in this video. He said, don't think of love as something you're trying to get. Think of yourself as like a water pitcher and it's pouring into you, right? That's like God pouring his love into you. And then imagine like you're pouring it out everywhere you go. And it's just an overflow and it just flows and it flows. That's like the nature of abundance. That's why I tithe. That's why I try to spread love. I try to do that because the more you give, the more you receive. All right. But that's how it works. That's the overflow principle. So step into love in the receiving mode of fill me, Father, fill me with love. And then what I do is I engage it. I listen to worship music or I write my own. And I pour in that sense of humility and compassion. Because humility and compassion will stair-step you into love. So if there's an air of anger or arrogance, and look, I've been guilty of that too. I've been guilty of thinking I've arrived and becoming a little arrogant, or in fact, even a little angry that things should be going my way and not, going the other way. It's human, right? But what I found is that humility and compassion will lead us into that actual presence of love. And why do you want to be there? Because you have no power without love. If you have a 200 IQ and you don't have love, you can't do anything for anybody else. Even if you stood right there in front of them and solved their greatest life challenge and told them the answer, without love, you've done nothing but hurt them. And I have been as guilty as anybody for doing that for over and over. I used to think, why are people so weak? Or why don't they just freaking listen to me? Or, whatever it is, right? Again, they're not even there. That was me confessing on myself. So in fact, whatever we say about them, this is how you get humility and compassion, by the way. I'm just kind of guiding you there. Is that it shows us, right? Why am I being so weak? Why don't they just frickin' listen? Why don't I just frickin' listen? Why am I being so weak? Have a little humility. And then embrace the brokenness. Like, hey, it's because I think I'm doing something. Man, remember that you're only one accident away from losing everything, including your life. There is nothing that is permanent and firm in your own power. It can be taken away in a split second. That'll give you humility. And that'll give you compassion, realizing, hey, you remember how bad it hurt last time? Why don't you remember how bad it hurt last time? Remember who you were in that broken place. And remember who saved your butt. Talking to myself. Yeah, I remember being bedridden. I remember going through the carbon just a couple months ago. I remember thinking I would have been dead by now. I remember that. Holy crap, did that hurt. Not physically, but it sure did hurt knowing that I was that close to dying and not even realizing why, and feeling so damn grief-filled about thinking that this is the best I could do for my children. Like, this is it? What a freaking loser. And that's how I felt about myself. And then I said, wait a minute, no, I can't beat myself up. I can't do that. It's not my fault. This is just a test. And so what is it about God that I need to know that's going to make me not afraid and not see this the wrong way? How do I need to see this according to what God knows to be true? Start there. Start there. How do I need to see this to know what God is seeing right now? Well, God is love, and that love wants to pour into me like a pitcher. Let's just pour that love in. Let's just pour that love in. And so that was the day that everything changed. Same principle, different problem. So there I was. And my poor dog, my puppy, she's sitting in her kennel downstairs because I'm so, like becoming immobilized, right? I don't really want to do anything. And I said, man, she needs to get outside. She needs to live. God be known, she was going through it too. She just can't speak. She's helpless. So I said, I'm taking her to the dog park. It was a mile walk. That was terrifying for me at the time. So I was like, I don't care. I am taking her to the dog park because love is going to lead the way today, and I'm going to love her. So what did I do in that moment? I brought love into the equation. Okay, so here's what happened next, right? So then I'm receptive to love. Love pours in. I get to that dog park, and then, Shayla's sitting there at the dog park. She's got her puppy. I didn't know her at the time, and, we start talking, and the dogs start playing. Lo and behold, she ends up living at my house, in the next, couple of days, right? She's running the water heater, she's doing all her laundry. She stressed the thing out to the point where it stopped working. I had never done that. I'm kind of a modest, laundry twice a week, maybe if I'm lucky. No, she's doing like 5 loads a day. She messages me, water heater's out. I need hot water. I'm on a walk. I'm literally about to break down that day because this hasn't solved itself yet. I don't even know what's going on. I go back to the house. I can't light that pilot light. I call an HVAC guy, an emergency guy. He comes out the next morning. He looks at me. He goes, you're lucky to be alive. I said, why? He says, look at this. He shows me the backdraft, the copper melted, carbon monoxide coming into the house. He goes, whoever did this, man, he goes, they should be punished bad. He goes, this is wrong. They did not install it up to code. This is very, very bad. He goes, I called my supervisor. They can't believe this. Lo and behold, I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, this is great news. He's thinking this is horrific. He's like, I hate to break it to you. Here's the bad news of the day. And I'm thinking, oh my God, that's the best thing I've ever heard. Because now I figured out what happened. I'm living in a damn gas chamber. That's where all the symptoms were coming from. That's why I wasn't able to walk and move. And my brain was turning into mush. And I was sleeping all the time. And all this stuff was happening. Because it was an invisible, silent threat that would have taken somebody out. But what happened? What changed? Why did it change? Well, I made a decision, I was living in fear. And I said, I need to let love in. I need to let love in. I got to love this dog. It doesn't matter who the love is pouring out to. It's the fact that you opened yourself up to it. Because love combined with truth, and that was part of Mark Sweeney's talk too. Now I see it. I didn't know, but that's what I did. Love and truth. And God took over and exposed the thing that only God could expose. And you see, that's a miracle. But miracles are not what you think they are. They're not these random occurrences that happen that suspend God's laws. Miracles are the perfect orderliness of applying God's laws to separate yourself from the illusion of sickness, discord, disease, and lack, and poverty, and relationship troubles, to the truth that you are the image and likeness and reflection of God right now, and you never were anything less. And that's what a miracle actually is it's defining what God is and seeing it and doing it through laws and not wishful thinking, magic thinking, mysticism, none of that stuff. So what's the law? The law is love first, become the vessel to pour, and then start pouring. And then listen, and God will speak. And when God speaks the truth, consciousness changes. And when consciousness changes, life transforms that second. Literally that second.